So one of the interesting aspects of e-note-taking devices is that they have different kind of textures and feels. And a lot of times, people that move to these types of devices are looking for something that has, for lack of a better term, a paper-like feel. And I guess that can probably vary from person to person, but the idea is that there's some sense of texture and sound from the writing experience that sometimes isn't always apparent with these devices as is. So, what in some cases people do is they basically purchase films for their devices that kind of simulate that, and then also sometimes changing the nibs too. Nibs wear down. They also have unique sounds, and there's a certain type of nib known as a titanium nib that has its own sound and doesn't wear down. So that's something I've never personally been interested in, but there's been a lot of chatter about these type of things on social media forums, and so I thought I would give it a try. So in this episode, I'm basically taking two products, this Dudro film, which is supposed to give a nice paper-like feel, and then these titanium nibs, both of which were recommended by a number of posters on the Reddit forums. And so I thought I would try to put that onto the Boox Tab Ultra C and see what the results were. So this video is all about that, and we'll see how it goes. I'm a little apprehensive. I've put on films on devices before. It won't be a disaster, but I've struggled a little bit in effectively applying film, so little bit apprehensive about that. So I'm just going to film just doing it, and we'll see how it goes, and then we'll talk about the results. Okay, we're going to start with phase one of this project, and that's replacing the nib on my stylus. We'll hopefully use this as the case for the screen as a backdrop. So we're going to remove that nib and replace it with one of our titanium nibs, and you can see those little guys right in there. So let's go ahead and open up the package. Oops. Looks like it's got a little bit of tape on there. So we'll cut that off. There we go. All right. And then that gives us our little removal tool, like so. So let's see how we can, this should be the easy part. Let's go ahead and grab that. Oh, hello. So it pulled it out just fine, but it launched it somewhere on the desk. So that's good to know. We'll find that later, I'm sure. Let's go ahead and get our titanium nib. And we just, really all we need to do is just stick it into the top here. Just like so. I'm going to use this to kind of push it in. Whoops. Get on the camera there. I'm just trying to get it in there. There we go. All right. Okay. Looks like that's in. You know, replacing and inserting nibs is not that hard. That's in there, except when they pop out, of course. So that's phase one is complete. We've now added our titanium nib, and in theory, we'll never have to replace this nib again unless we want to replace it with a non-titanium nib. All right, phase one is a success. Okay, with phase one behind us, and I did find the nib, so we're good to go there. Phase two then is actually putting on the screen. So let's go ahead and open this up. This is, you can see I got it from dudro.com, and there's the cover. Let's go ahead and fold this, pull out the contents like so. What else is in there? There we go. Okay. All right, there we go. I think that's everything. Yep, excellent. Put this back up as a backdrop. So we've got a couple kind of squeegees right here. We've got a couple kits. So presumably we have two applications here. So we'll put that aside. We have the screens themselves in this container. Put that right there. And then we have the instructions. Let's take a quick look at the instructions. Okay, so there's a video we can watch. I'm going to go ahead and watch that before I go through the next steps. But here are the steps that we're going to follow. So I don't know if you can read that closely, but it looks like you have to start off with attaching the screen and attaching the tabs. And then you pull away the screen with the tab still attached. You'll see it's hanging there. You wipe the screen. You reapply the screen on, where you take off the film from the screen. So there's the device. There's the film coming off. And then you lay it back on the device using the squeegee to get rid of air bubbles. And then you pull off the outer layer and you are good to go. So in theory, that's all that needs to happen. We'll see how that happens in practice. Okay, so now I've watched the video and I know enough to be dangerous. So let's go ahead and see if we can make this happen. I'm going to go ahead and open up this kit here. I'm going to put it on autofocus. Hopefully that's not too bad for the video, but thought it might be helpful given we're going to move around a lot here. Okay. All right. So just need to pull out one more piece, which is this. All right. So we've got one of these. There we go. Put that in the background there. Okay. Let's open this up. Look, so it says front right there, and then there's a sticker on the other one that says back. Okay, let's see. Align your screen protection. Step 2 facing you. Okay, that's step 2 right there, I think. So that needs to face me. So, right. Okay. Side. Let me just read that one more time just to make sure. Actually, let me read that on the screen. It's easier to read there. The sticker helps to remove the mask. Peel the mask with the sticker. Okay, I'm pretty sure I need... let's move that over. Okay, so this is going to cover the entire thing, including the spine here. So that's good to know. Okay. And we need to apply our 3 positioning stickers here, and they're going to go on the opposite side of these tabs. They're going to go over here. And there was an interesting technique on the video. So let's go ahead and apply that. So are we lined up perfectly? I think we are. Whoops, it was until I touched it. Okay. Fold it back like that. Okay. Not sure if the technique they showed on the video is going to work on this desk. Well, I guess we'll find out. Put this positioning sticker over here. And they say to go and just fold it in along the sides, like so. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to have a little bit of a gap up there, but I'll be flush down here. Can I live with that? No, I think I'd rather have it more centered. So let's go ahead and... Okay, hopefully that's not... I didn't just ruin everything. But that's part of the fun of doing this on video. Okay, let's see if we can center that a little bit better. Oh, it's so sensitive. All right. I think we got it. right, looks pretty... Oh, maybe not over here. Oh my god. It's not terrible. You know, I'm just gonna live with it. Think I'm good. Put this last one here. Fold it over. So what they did in the video is they just had you take the device and go like this. There. So that actually, let me turn this around. And one of them didn't take, so we'll get a chance to. So see how two of those folded under. So what we did basically is, there we go. That's what they had us do. See that? And that way you get a nice. So theoretically, it's all positioned. Oh, mine's off a little bit. My goodness. Always looks better in real life than it does. There we go. Let's go with that. Forget the technique. There we go. Okay. Okay. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Okay. So then I have to fold this over. Let's push this. Whoops. Like so. And then we're going to choose the wet wipe first. So this guy. All right, we'll open that up. And okay, nice little tiny square there. So we'll go through and clean off all the dust of the device. So we'll get a nice seal, hopefully, with minimal air bubbles. Then we're going to use this cloth like so, and we will wipe that off. All right. Okay. Oops, there's one step we missed. Of course there is. So I'll put this back. I needed to apply this guy here. It says stick to hold the film. Yes, so the small part does go over the film. So we'll see if we can line that up. I'm sure it doesn't have to be exact. Like so. All right. Cool. All right, now we're caught up. Hopefully we didn't do any damage. Okay, so the next thing is I need to take off this film on the back. So let me get this into the camera. Sorry, this is an awkward one to film, so my apologies, but hopefully it's still okay. That's easy. All right, cool. That's not too bad. And then now that we've cleaned it off, we're gonna go ahead and bring this over. Okay. And then yes, we're supposed to squeegee it out now. So I already see some air bubbles in there. Get rid of those. You can see one. You can see it right there. See if you let me use the stylus to show you. So you can see there's an air bubble that goes right along there, and there's one there. It looks like they're kind of getting smaller even as I'm talking about it. Yeah, look at that. Okay. So this is obviously the bit, well, maybe it's not obvious, but this is the bit I'm worried about the most. Oh yeah, there's some in the center there too, isn't there? Okay, bring it out. Let's get that out. It's kind of hard to see them. It's really easy to see them on the sides, but a little harder. Okay. You know what? This isn't... I'm nervous because it feels pretty easy. Oh, I think there's... No, there's a big bubble in the center there. Yeah, there you can see it right there. Right there. In the center. Let's see if we can get rid of that. I'm going to have to... Oh, look at that thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, that squeegeed right out. That wasn't so bad. Okay, that was tricky though. It's hard. Okay. You really got to use pressure. Just shove these guys out. All right. Oh my goodness, that is so. Let me take a look at an angle here. Oh, there's one up here. Every time I shift my view, I see another bubble. But so far, these are pretty easy to get out, actually. This is not hard at all. Let's take another, let's take another look. Just trying to make sure I got rid of all of them. With this blue, it's kind of hard to see. I feel like I have. And just using the reflection. Oh, maybe, is that a bubble right there? Let's see. I think it is. Yeah. Oh, what did I do there? Huh. Okay, it's kind of scuffed. I don't know if that means there's still an air bubble there. Now you can't see it on this video though. Just looking, wait, is there a bubble? Yeah, there it is, right around here. So let's see. Oh my goodness, this is tough. Like, it's tough to see the bubbles. Once you see them, oh, actually these bubbles aren't moving. These are tough bubbles. Oh my goodness, come on. I don't know if I'm moving as much as I'm just bludgeoning them to death. Can that take care of it? Kind of. Just digging in and trying to make sure there are no bubbles before I do this last layer. Look, the blue makes it so hard, but I'm just eyeballing it. It looks pretty good. I see one over here, which makes sense. I haven't been pressing down too hard where the stickers are. Probably should try to do the stickers just in case. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you guys aren't screaming at home as I okay, that's a spot. If I make sure I'm not missing anything. Being very, see, I scuffed it up a little bit here. I'm curious. It's really hard to pick up on the camera. You can kind of see it right there underneath my finger. There it is, but I think it's hopefully just the cover film. Okay, let's rotate this. Maybe a little bit of an air bubble. So I got a little bit of work to do here in the corner. And on top. Not bad though, we're getting there. All right. Not as concerned about the bubbles around the edges too. I want to try to get rid of them, of course, but you know, it's not going to be perfect. I can live with that as long as it's good. Looks like there might be an air bubble. There's definitely something there. Not sure it's an air bubble or not. I'm good. I'm just gonna live with this. I'm at the point where I've done enough. Let me read the instructions here. Oh, and if there's so in case of micro bubbles, they'll disappear in 24 to 36, and I think that's kind of where we're at. So I think we're good. We have this blue thing, and I'm not sure what this blue thing does. I'm looking at the instructions, and I don't see how it would be used anywhere. All right. Fantastic. Let's remove the last layer. All right. Okay. Let's see how we did. So this is a close-up. The screen is now off. Looks like there's some bubbles up here. It's kind of hard to see. Let me, my goodness. All this. God help me. I think I might have done this okay. Let me put this on the easel, and we'll take a close-up of it and see how I did. All right. And let's see if we can get the light to. There we go, and we'll alter the camera. Okay, move it back a little bit. All right, so we can see we've got some air bubbles. Let's see, right up here. Wonder if those could even be rubbed out. We've got some bubbles up here, but you know what? I don't see any other bubbles. So that's actually, I'm pretty happy with that edge. And these might go away. Yeah, I knew about these. We were trying to squeegee them out. Weren't able to. These I suspected because the tape was in the way, and I tried to work on them. So these, in theory, should go away. So we'll take a picture of this in a couple days and get a sense of it. But putting my finger on it, you can definitely feel it's a rougher surface now. Not too rough. It's subtle, but it's definitely on there. So I have to say, for all my apprehension of putting this on, and I ran into a couple hiccups along the way, it was actually pretty smooth. Let's do a quick test. Let's turn this thing on, and we'll go into notes. Let's see. Here we go. I think I've got a little air bubble down there too. So we'll see if those go away. Create. Okay. Very good. And just got to hold it because, let's see. So, oh, wow. Obviously my handwriting's terrible because I'm writing at the edge, but you can definitely hear that, and it feels much rougher than it sounds. It's a really rough feeling as I'm writing on this. Yeah, wow, it's almost like, what is that like? You know what, this feels very much like a pencil, because you can feel the roughness. Go. Well, it's different. I'll tell you that for sure. Do I like it? I'm not sure. Just gonna write over the bubble there. So as I said, I'll take another picture of this in a couple days, and we'll see if those bubbles went away. We'll do a last test. well, you can certainly hear it and you can certainly feel it. Very interesting. I'm going to play with this and get a better sense of it before I kind of give my final thoughts. But there's no question that there's a definite visceral feel, or tactile feel rather, to this than the screen before. I mean, this is not what it sounded like at all. It's very unique sound, and I could see why some people would gravitate to this, because there's definitely that feedback when writing. As I said, the roughness of it very much is reminiscent of a pencil, and not a mechanical pencil, like an actual, lead or graphite pencil. Very interesting. Okay, well, that's the end of phase 2. We'll check it out and see how these bubbles fared and get my final thoughts in a couple days. But I would have to say, so far, this wasn't the disaster that I thought it might be. So I'm going to take this down as a win. So before we see how well I did in putting on the screen, I thought we'd take a little bit of time to go through different devices and record what it sounds like to write on them. So we'll show what it's like to write on this particular combination that with the titanium nib and the Judro screen. We'll see what it's like to write on a regular Boox screen, and I've added some other devices for comparative purposes as well. So hopefully you'll get a sense of what the sound is like, and hopefully get a sense of maybe what works well or that you would prefer. So that's the idea. Let's go through this, and then we'll go into my final results and my final thoughts on all of this. So for this test, we're going to be using the Tab Ultra C. It has the Judro, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, screen film on it, and we're using the titanium nib. So let's see how it sounds. Okay, for this example, we're still using the Tab Ultra C, and we're also using the Judro cover, but this time we're using a standard nib, and this is on a Boox stylus. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, for this example, we've got the Tab Mini C. This has no cover on it, so this is basically what the screen sounds like without any additional film. And it should simulate what the Tab Ultra C would have sounded like without the film. We're going to use a standard nib on a standard Boox stylus. So in this example, we have the Remarkable 2 here, and I'm going to start off using actually the Boox Pen Pro. I may have that name wrong, but it's the one with the eraser, and we're using a standard nib. Remarkable is known for having a pretty scratchy screen, so let's check it out. This is the Remarkable 2 again, but the difference this time is we're going to use Remarkable's Pro Pen and see if that sounds any different. Last but not least, we have the Bigme Inknote Color Plus, and I'm using no film other than what it comes with, which is also kind of a rough film, not quite as rough as the Doodroo film, but it is notable. And this is the stylus that it comes with the tip, the nib that is normal with this device. Since I reviewed the Mobiscribe Wave recently, I figured I'd go ahead and do a sound check on this device as well. So here's the Wave black and white, and here's the stylus that it comes with. Okay, so let's see, now that it's a few days later, how well I applied this film. And here it is. So you can see basically around here, there's a little bit of an air bubble here on the side. The circle, I think, is actually a sensor. So I think that's okay, but on the side, you can see some air bubbles. And then furthermore, you can see some air bubbles down here, just at the very edge of the screen. And I don't know if you can quite make it out. Probably not, but there's some air bubbles, oops, right there at the edge. What you don't see, however, is on the screen itself, there are no air bubbles, or if they are there, it's super tiny. I'll put this at an angle and see if we can see it. So effectively, for the most part, the screen was applied pretty easily, and I think that's a testament to the quality of the product. I'm, as noted in the beginning, not necessarily great in applying these films. I'm not horrible, and you certainly saw me in the video, but I would argue that this is a successful implementation. So yay for me. And I think hope for anybody that might be also apprehensive of trying to apply these types of screens to their devices. I literally filmed the entire thing. I didn't edit the film at all. So it happened fairly quickly, number one, and it happened for the most part effectively, with the exception of a couple spots around the periphery, which functionally are perfectly acceptable. A little bit. It'd be nice if they weren't there, but you can live with them. All right. So what do I think about this in total? Well, I'm a little torn on it. I think the film is really interesting. It adds a lot of tactile feel to the screen, which is kind of interesting. It's a much rougher screen, rougher than any other device that I've ever worked with. And that's kind of interesting. I guess I'm neutral on that ultimately. I think it does make an interesting sound. I liked it in particular using the screen with a standard nib, which we showed an example of in one of my earlier demos in this video. I thought that sounded better than using the titanium nib. The titanium nib came across a little harsh, although I will say over time I'm kind of getting used to it a little bit more. So we'll see how that wears over time. Speaking of that, this whole idea of having to replace nibs, I actually don't have to replace nibs that often, and I think this speaks to how you use your stylus. So everyone's mileage will vary in this regard, but the way that I tend to do my note-taking writing is that basically I set the pen style to exactly what I want, to the exact flow of the ink I want. And one of the beauties of that is I'm never putting much pressure on the stylus at all. I'm just holding it enough to be able to make that contact and to write. And so I have a very relaxed writing as a result of that. And I'm putting very little pressure on the nib. For the first year that I owned the Note Air, I replaced the nib once, and I wasn't even sure I had to then. It was just starting to sound a little bit scratchier than normal, and I wondered if I had worked the nib down to a point and might be damaging my screen, so I ended up replacing the nib just as a precaution. But I don't know if I necessarily needed to. I also use the Super Note, which has a ceramic tip that's especially made for that device, and you never have to replace that one. So I just don't replace nibs. One thing, now that I mention it, the titanium nib will potentially scratch up a screen if it doesn't have the right type of film, and that's partly why we selected the Doudrot screen, is because it can handle this tip without scratching it. It's kind of a self-healing screen, as they like to say. So just one tip: do not use a titanium nib without the screen. But I will say that overall, I tend to kind of like, I'm still intrigued by the screen itself, and I do kind of like some of the sounds that it makes, but I don't necessarily buy fully into the titanium nib, and nor do I need them because I don't replace nibs. Now, if you're someone that puts a lot more pressure on your stylus as you're writing, if you do a lot of sketching, which requires different levels of sensitivity, pressure sensitivity, that is, and you're using all sorts of angles to draw, well, then you're going to be replacing your nibs much more frequently, and maybe a titanium nib makes more sense. But I think for most people, you can probably leave the titanium nib behind. Do you need the screen? I think the screen's interesting. I don't think it's a must-have. I'm perfectly happy, with the very subtle sounds that you get off of just drawing off of a Boox device. There's just enough subtle little scratchiness in there that I appreciate that auditory feedback. This obviously, with the screen on, is a much more audible version of that. It's much more present, and it has its own charms. I just wouldn't call it essential. So it's a nice to have. And I have put in the links to this video, the addresses for both the screen as well as the titanium nibs, if you're interested in going that route. But it's by no means essential. But if you're really looking for more of a tactile feel, more of that sound coming back at you, the scratchiness of writing, then yeah, maybe this is a combination that's worth considering. I don't think it's that expensive for either the screen. The nibs certainly are quite cheap, and no harm to try. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts on that. So hopefully you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, please let me know. As always, be sure to subscribe because I've got more content coming. As always, try to get a video out every week, and until next time, I'll see you then.